Right, we're away. Right, so new project. I'm going to give it a sensible name. I need to make sure it's Visual Basic though. There we go. So, Guesser, I'm going to call it. Right, so I'm going to just put my elements on first. So I'll just lock my toolbox on so I'm not messing. Right, so I want a button for doing the guessing, a button to start the game. I'm going to have a label to say this is the user's guess, and I'm going to have a text box. So once I've dropped them on, got to name them all. So I need the properties window up. Okay, and that text box, remember the name is the one at the top. Put a prefix in, so this is going to be player guess, I'm going to call it. Remember, no spaces in the names of things, so use camel casing. So that's where we capitalise each word, but not the first one. Right, so the label I'm not going to name, but I'm going to put my text on it. So that's going to be your guess. Right, the two buttons, name those two. So the one that the player's guessing, I'm going to call it BT check guess. And the other one, I'm going to call it BT start new game. Seems reasonable. Okay, so I need to change the displays on the form. So that's the text property. So this is going to be super guessing game 3.1, whatever that means. My text on my button, so this is going to be submit guess. Not big enough, so I'm going to make the button bigger so I can see the text. Obviously you can change the font and everything. And the other one is going to be start new game. Okay. Arguably the form doesn't need to be that big, but it depends if you change your font. You know, make it the size you want it. Okay, so to start with, initially, submit guess, we don't want the user to be able to click. Alright, so if we look down to the properties for the button, so I've selected submit guess, enabled is the property we're going to mess about with. If we just double click that, it'll change to false. Okay, if I just run my system to show you that, you'll see that the button's greyed out. So I can't select it. But I can select the new game one, which is all I want the user to do at the start. Okay, so when I start a new game, so I'm going to put a little bit of code in just to do that bit of functionality. If I double click my start new game button, because I named my button properly, it says there, I don't need those now, so I'll just get rid of them. It says BT start new game click. Alright, so it makes sense, the naming of it. But I'm going to put a comment in just to say sets up a new game. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the player guess button. So I'm going to say BT, because I can't remember what it's called. Oh, that's interesting. The window's not very long. Okay, BT check guess. Oh, I wish Visual Basic didn't do that. Press space when you want to use the picker. So when you're doing that, press space and then it doesn't drop it to the next line. Dot enabled equals true. So if I do that, that should enable the button. But I don't want them to start a new game. So I'm going to disable the start new game button. So I'm going to say BT new game enabled equals false. Okay. Remember, I'm videoing this, so don't worry that you keep up. I just want to show you that. So I'm going to run that now to show you that working. So the submit button not available. Click start new game. Submit button's available now. And I've disabled the start new game. Now you could argue that we don't want to do that. They might get fed up and want to start a new game. Okay, so I'm just going to comment that line out. Not delete it, I'm commenting it. So it's there if I want to make it and use it again later. Okay. I need to put a comment in so that I remember what the hell that did. So enable player guess button so it can be clicked. Okay. Right. What I need to do is I need to generate a new number. Okay. Now I don't know how I want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate subroutine to do it. But I'm going to put this in a new module. So this is something we didn't do with the old last program we did. So we're going to have a new module here. So I'm going to go up to project. And I'm going to say, and there's actually an option for Visual Basic, saying add module. And it'll ask me for a name. I need to give it a sensible name. So I'm going to call this Game Logic. No spaces in that name. Okay, so I want a subroutine that will generate a new number for me, a random number. Okay, I'll need somewhere to store that. So what I'm going to do, don't worry if you're not, just follow what I'm doing because you can watch the video again. Alright, right, I'm going to need to store the guess that the computer's made. Now we're going to work with whole numbers because it'd be a bit of a hard game if you used to say to 15 decimal places what number have I guessed. That wouldn't be very fair. It's a bit like what the lottery is. About as much chance. Okay, so I'm going to say public. I'm not. If I spell it right, I might say public. I'm going to say computer guess. I can't spell computer either. Oh dear, struggling. Computer guess as integer. Now, this is not inside a subroutine. So when we created a variable inside a subroutine, we called that a local variable, didn't we? This is not in a subroutine. So what do you think I'm going to call this? It's the one that you said, have we got any of these? Continue. A global. Alright, so this variable is available to every part of our code, which is why it's called global. Alright, so I'm going to say globally store computer's guess. Okay, so I'm going to just put a comment to explain what it is. Right, I'm now going to create a subroutine that's going to generate a random number for me. So I'm going to say public sub, oh, and I want a name, so get new number. Oh, I went into C# mode there. Okay, and I have to put these brackets in to show that it's a subroutine. Okay, so that is the name I'm going to use. Now I need to generate a random number and store it in computer guess. Okay, so in order to do that, I have to create something else globally. So I'm going to say public random generator equals new random. Okay, and what that does, somebody at Microsoft created a random number generator for us, which is very nice of them, so that we don't have to worry about how you do that. Okay, so I'm just going to say create a random number generator. Now that I've got that, I can use that in my subroutine. And it really is only one line of code to do this. So I'm going to say, right, okay, store in computer guess a random number. So I'm going to say random generator, and I'm going to say next. I'm doing something stupid here. Hang on a minute. That's a bit odd. Oh. No. Right, made a total mistake. I didn't say what type this was, so I need to up here say as random. Right, then this will work. There we go. Next. And then we tell it what numbers we want to pick between. Okay, so if we want a number between 1 and 10, we have to actually say 11, weirdly. Alright, there are reasons for that, but it basically just gives us a range of numbers. So that will pick a number between 1 and 10, weirdly. 11 is the upper number. Alright, so don't worry about that. Okay, so that line of code just generates the number. Now, what I want to do while I'm developing this, I want to know whether I'm guessing correctly or not. So I want to be able to cheat. Alright, so I need to be able to display the random number while I'm cheating, while I'm working on it. Otherwise I won't know whether it's working properly. Okay, so back in my form code, when I start my new game, I'm going to generate that random number. So I'm going to say game logic dot, and you'll see that the subroutine comes up, and it's in like purple, the subroutine. So get new number. So I'm saying run that. At this point, I can now display the number. So I'm going to put a line of code here. I'm going to put a comment first. I'm going to say cheat, show the computer's pick. Alright, and just for my cheating sake, I'm just going to display it in the top window of the form. So I'm going to say me.text equals game logic. So I'm putting the name of the module, dot, and then I can say computer guess. Okay. So I'm going to put a comment above that, get a new random number. Okay, so I enable the guess button, I get a new number, and then I'm going to display it on the form. So I'm just going to run that. So it says, at the minute at the top of the form, it says Super Guessing Game 3.1. But I'm going to overwrite it. So it's picked a 3. If I keep clicking Start New Game, I'll see I get a new number each time. Notice I'm not getting 11. This is the way the random number generator works. Okay, so I'm cheating at the minute. Because I need to know that if I then put a guess in and it's correct, then that's going to work. Okay. Right, so that's just starting the new game. What I'm also going to need to keep track of is how many guesses the players had. Okay, so back in my game logic, I'm going to create another global variable. Number of guesses, and that's going to be a whole number, so that's an integer again. Okay. When I start the game, what should I set that to? So when I start a new game, how many guesses should I have had? None. Yeah? So part of starting the new game will be setting the number of guesses to 0. So if we go back to the form code, so get a new number, and then we're going to say game logic, number of guesses, wherever it is, number of guesses equals 0. So we're making just a little counter. Okay. Is there anything else we need to do to start the game up? Other than that. So we've picked a new number. We've reset the number of guesses the players had. Not when we start the game though. Alright. Right. Now we can program the other button code, can't we? So if we go back to our form, we can double click submit. That will generate a subroutine for us. And again, because I've named it properly, it says BT check guess click. Okay, so this is the thing checking the guess. What's the first thing we've got to do? They've entered something into a text box. What should we do? Right, take it. We need somewhere to store it. So we're going to create a local variable. We'll call it current guess because that's a nice, sensible name. It's going to be an integer. So we'll create that storage. Right, they might put some text in. So we'll have to put try and catch down. So I'm going to put try. And it builds the rest of it for me, remember? So I'm going to say, okay, let's copy from the text box. I can't remember what I called the text box, but I put a prefix, TX. So if I type TX, it'll help me. So text. So get the text from the text box. If they didn't do it properly, I am going to put a message box up. So message box dot show pick a number. And I'm also going to say you also wasted a go. So I'm gonna stuff them over for that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say game logic dot number of guesses equals game logic dot number of guesses plus 1. So that is adding 1. Okay, so that's a simple way of adding 1 to a value. So just increase it by 1. Right, if they did do this correctly, we can check, see if it's the correct value. Alright, so what we can do is we could say if, and this is how we make a decision. So we say if current guess equals the computer's guess, so that's the computer guess, then we can say, oh, well done, excellent, brilliant. Okay, we're going to do that on another form. Alright, but we haven't built that yet, so we're just going to put some code in here as a comment, and I'm just going to say, tell them well done. Alright, what we'll also do is we'll disable the guess button. So we can say BT, check guess dot enabled equals false. Okay, tell them well done and disable guess button until they start the new game. Okay, that's what we're going to do there. Right, I'm just going to run that because there's logic there that we can now check. So start a new game. Right, the number's 4. So if I guess a 5, the submit button's still active. But if I guess 4, which is the correct value, the submit button should disable. Yes, and it's disabled. Okay, because that's what we told it to do if we got it wrong. If they didn't get the answer right, we can say else. So you say, right, if this is true, this is what we call a condition. If this condition is true, do this stuff here that immediately follows. If it isn't true, we can do something else. Alright? And again, tell them they were wrong. Right, we need to build our other form so that we can do these messages. Alright, so that's where we're going to do it. In that point and that point is where we're going to run the form. Okay, if we go up to project, this is how you add a new form. Very important this. Let's just quickly look at Solution Explorer. As some people have found to their cost, if you start renaming things, afterwards you break it completely. So don't ever do that. Okay, so we have to put up with that one called Form 1. We don't care, we're just going to leave it as that. When we add a new form, we actually get a chance to set the name. So there's no excuses. So we can say add Windows form. Right, so we're going to give it a name. So this is going to be our output window, I'm going to call it. Oh, gold. I'm typing really bad today. Output window. And it creates another form. And you'll see in Solution Explorer that it says output window.vb. Excellent. Now I'm just going to quickly rearrange this. Okay, I'm just going to put a label on it. That's the most basic thing I can do. So on my toolbox, just going to drop a label on there. I'm going to turn that auto size off because that's annoying on labels, I think. So auto size false makes me make it whatever shape I want. Okay, I'm going to program with this label, so I'm going to change its name because label 1's a poor name. So I'm going to call it LB message. Okay. Right. When we're working with a second form or a third form or whatever, The designer is purely that. It's just a design. It doesn't exist. We have to create it to make it exist. Alright, so in our code, that now exists and it's called output window. What we need to do is, there's a couple of ways we can do it. We'll do it at the top. No. We'll do it here. We create it dynamically. Okay? So we say dim, we'll say output as output window okay. It looks like an horrendous line of code. God, I can't type. So output dot lb message dot text. So let me just type this and I'll explain what these lines are doing. Well done, you lucky sod. It's going to say. Okay, and then we're going to say output dot show dialog. Right, what that does, there's 3 steps gone on there. I've created, so that line where I say dim output as output window equals new output window. What I'm doing is I'm saying, right, there's a design for a form called output window. I want to create it and make it exist in my code. We don't have to do this with form 1, that's created for us. Alright? So I'm going to refer to it as output. Create it. And it creates it on that first line. So that whole line does that task. The next line says, right, there's a label on there, on that form. Let's change the text of it so that it says what we want it to say. And then I want to show it as a dialog box. So when this happens, you'll see that I can't actually do anything else until I've clicked on. I've got to guess right first, obviously. So let's guess right. There you go. There's my form. Now I can put pictures on that form. I can do whatever I want. Alright? So it says, well done, you lucky sod. Now I can't actually go back to my other form because it's a dialog box. I've got to close it first. Okay? Before I can continue. I don't have to show it like that, but it doesn't make sense to do that for what we're doing at the minute. So if I want to do this, to do the error message or the ha 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 you're useless message, I'm just going to copy that code and repeat it. But obviously I'm going to say you are you are naff at this. Okay? Or whatever appropriate message you want. So this time, when I guess, let's say I guess wrong, the same window appears. I can change it and I can do lots of other things to it if I want to. Alright, I can change the size of it if I wanted. And it just says that. And again, I can't carry on until I do it. Then I can like guess correctly if I want. Well done, you lucky sod. Okay. So we've got most of the logic now, apart from the guesses. So I've added 1 to the number of guesses. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I haven't got anything in here that's saying, oh, hang on a minute, you've run out of guesses. Okay, so I am going to put at the bottom what did I call it? Oh, it's in game logic. So at the bottom, after I've done everything, I'm going to say if game, bit odd. Oh dear. Number of guesses equals, and we'll go with 3. Then gold. Then what we're going to do is we're going to stop them playing the game. Okay, so we need to disable the guess button. So we're going to say check guess enabled equals false. But we ought to give them a message to say that that's it, game over, idiot face or whatever. So I'm going to create that window again to give them the message, but I'm going to say end of chance. I picked, and I'm going to tell them what number it was, so I can do that string manipulation, the concatenation. So I can put I picked, and then it was game logic dot computer guess. All right. So just following that through. So start a new game. So I'm going to guess wrong. Yeah. Okay, I'm no good at this. So this time is my last chance. Notice it appears wherever it wants. That's up to Windows. By default, Windows decides where to put a form, weirdly. Sometimes that's what you want, other times you don't want it to do that. So when I close it this time, it should say, well, I'm going to end of chances, I pick 1. Which is what we knew the computer picked because we were cheating. Okay. So that, at a superficial basic level, is what all games are doing. All the time. They're doing lots of these decisions, which allows you to do complicated stuff. Okay? So the decisions are, have I hit a lamppost? If I've hit a lamppost, make it fall over. Make spark animations come up in GTA 5. At a simple level, that's all that's going on. The fact that it's being rendered in wonderful 3D, that's the side issue. The game logic is just that simple. Okay? If I'm pulling the right trigger, accelerating car. If I pull the left trigger, activate the brake. So run a subroutine that does the brakes. It's only doing this. It's no more complicated than this. It's just a lot more of it. You know, you might have 3 or 4 million lines of code in a game like GTA 5, which is a little bit more than what I've got here. Okay? But there isn't anything more complicated going on in that game than there is in what I've just written. Okay? Not really. It all breaks down to the same thing. There are decisions being made. Okay? Right. What I'll do, I've got loads of headphones and stuff. If you haven't got headphones on, you can start following this. Over the next couple of lessons, I want you to follow this. I'm going to show you something else next week, and then we'll start the second task. Okay? What you'll need to do is go through this, but I want you to put comments in. So I've put some comments in, but I want you to make sure you really comment this up so that you can follow it again. Alright, right, I'll stop that video now.